Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. Time for another inbox review, and today we have another big box kit. It's another variant of an aircraft that we did last week, the B-24D Liberator from Hobby Boss in 1/32 scale right here. Like I said, last week we did the B-24J kit, and I do know that that one does have some issues. And I'm thinking that this one is going to have the same issues as the other one because these were released pretty quickly together. It wasn't a long time, so we do know that there are a few issues with the wing shape, the engines, and all that. But anyways, we're going to get into this kit. We're going to do this inbox review like we haven't seen the B-24 from Hobby Boss before. And yeah, so getting into the box, we have some great box art on the top right here. I'm really loving the tan B-24 right here. And then we go off to the side, we have 4 options right here. We got 3 tans and 1 green right here. As you can see, some nice painting options right there. And then we have on the other side, we have I think a little bit of just a color call out or something like that on that side. Can't really tell. And then on the reverse side, we have some CAD drawings of the actual model right here. It is a full interior, even though you really can't see any of the back side. We do have a full interior. So I'm going to get this all opened up and set up, and then we can start getting into the instructions, the decals, and the plastic parts. So give me 1 second to get it all set up. Alright, so starting off with the instructions. Much like Trumpeter / Hobby Boss, we have the standard instruction format for this and a landscape booklet right here. Then we also have the typical read before operation, and then our legend of all the symbols that we will be seeing throughout the instructions right here. So moving right along, get that set aside. We'll go through that here in a second. But we have our sprue callouts right here, and all the parts are not numbered on the sprue callout. So that's a nitpicky thing for me, just for the fact that it is, for me, a little bit hard to read the numbers on the plastic. So I do like to have the numbers on the sheet. It makes it a little bit easier, but moving forward. We have multiple sprues, a lot of sprues in this kit, just going through. And then we have our rubber tires, we have some rubber ammo belts right here, photo etch, undercarriage pieces right here, and then our decal sheets right here. Alright, so starting off with the kit, we're starting off with the flight deck. We have a lot of detail to go in there with our instrument panel, our throttle quadrant, our seats, the bulkhead, and all that going on. And then we have another bulkhead going on in front of the instrument panel. After that, we're working on our lower deck that has our nose landing gear. Looks like we might be able to attach it after the build is all done. So we'll have to see about that, except for this piece, obviously. We'll have to do that at the beginning. But we also have some framing to liven up the nose gear well right here. And maybe a little bit of lead wire really to kind of spruce that thing up, even though you really won't be able to see the bottom of that right there. Alright, so after that's all done, we're getting our flight deck attached to our lower deck for our nose landing gear well. And then we have a piece to add on right here as well, and then a ladder and a couple other pieces. Then we have some more detail parts going into the front section of here. Then it has the back bulkhead going on to the flight deck right here. After that's all done, we're starting off with our bomb bays, getting our bomb bay done. Looks like it's going to be a nicely full detail bomb bay. And then we have a few other parts to add on, including our bombs as well. Alright, after that's all done, we are adding in our front section, our bomb bay, and then the tail gunner section right there, along with our turret section right here. So a lot of nice areas to go in, and you can really spruce this thing up. After that's done, we're working on our tail gunner turret right in here. Some nice detail along in there. We'll have to see how the clear parts look, but so far the detail on here actually looks pretty nice. Alright, after that we're working on our ball turret. really the only time that you're going to see any of this is if you have the B-24 in flight, because on the ground it is actually retracted into the belly of the aircraft. So this is nice, a lot of nice detail on here. For the most part, HK models, their B-17 turrets do look a little bit more detailed than what is included in here, but we will have to see. Alright, and then after that we're working on the fuselage half, getting the inside painted up, and then we have a bunch of little detail parts to add in along the side here. So a lot of work going in on that piece. After that's all done, we're repeating it for the other side, adding in more detail parts along, all going on through here. A lot of little detail parts going on. Then we are also repeating, we're adding in our clear parts and a few other parts going on. Oxygen bottles, a bulkhead right there, and then it looks like possibly the mount for our gun, our waist gunner right here. Then we have a few other parts to add into what looks to be the cockpit up here. Alright, so moving on, again, more detail parts onto the sidewalls of the fuselage. So we're going to have a lot of work to do on the sidewalls of the fuselages, because we're repeating it for even adding in more detail into the side of this side of the fuselage. So again, we're going to have a ton of detail on the inside of here. After that's done, we are adding in our wing spar, getting that in, and then we are sandwiching in the two fuselage halves, and then we also have the clear part for our nose, adding in those guns as well, and then adding that to the fuselage along with our main canopy piece and our top turret right there, and also a wind deflector for our waist gunners. And then we have our bomb bay doors. In the up position, you will definitely be able to see into the bomb bay as well. Alright, after that's all done, we have the piece that covers the ball turret on the belly. As you see in this picture, it is tucked up into the belly of the aircraft. So really all you're going to be able to see of it is the very bottom rounded curve right there. We're also adding the other side bomb bay doors, and then we have some photo etch to go onto the inside of the bomb bay, and then we have our bomb bay doors as well. Okay, so after that we are working on our main landing gear wells, getting those all assembled. Looks like there's some nice framing detail for there. You might want to add a little bit of lead wire and cabling just to kind of spruce that up, and especially with how high these sit, you might be able to see inside of those if you're at the right angle looking up. Alright, then moving forward, we're adding in that landing gear well to the lower wing right here, and then we have a couple nav lights to add in, and then on the upper wing we have a panel to go in here, and then we have also another navigation light to go in, and then we're repeating it for the other side as well. After that's all done, we are sandwiching our wings onto the wing spar. So these wings don't slot in, they get assembled over top. They get sandwiched over this wing spar, which is really going to help with the strength of these wings. After that, we're adding on our ailerons as well. Looks like they might be positionable, but we will have to see. Alright, then moving on, we're adding in our engine nozzles right here along with our superchargers, and another looks like possibly a cowl flap right there as well. I know this is one area of the kit that is major lacking for detail. And then we're just repeating it for the other side with our flaps and our ailerons, getting those all sandwiched in, and then repeat again with the engine nozzles on that. After that's done, we're getting our main landing gear done. We have some undercarriage supports right there, and then some more details to go onto the main landing gear, and again adding all of that in right there. And then we start off with our engines. Alright, so getting on our engines, all that detail on there, and then our engine cowls as well as our landing gear doors. Looks like maybe a skid plate right here on that, and then our engines and propellers going in as well. We do know that this is a major weak point of this kit is the engines. Alright, so finally, last few steps, we're working on our tailplane, getting the tailplane done, and this tailplane is actually freaking massive on this kit. So getting all that done, getting our elevators on, those will also be positionable as well, and then getting our vertical stabilizers and rudders in there. It's nice that those are two separate pieces so you can have those positionable as well. Alright, and then the last step, we are getting that tailplane attached to the fuselage right here. Then also we have a few antennas to add to the spine of the fuselage, and then this build is all done. Alright, so moving on to our color schemes right here, we have Wongo Wongo right here, nice tan scheme. I really do like the tan scheme of this. I really wish they would have had Strawberry Bitch, because Strawberry Bitch is actually in the Dayton Air Force Museum, so that would have been nice to be able to go there, get some reference photos of it, and really build it up to be like that. But just moving forward, we have Wongo Wongo right here. We also have the Witch right here for option number 2. Again, another nice option. Then on the flip side, we have a green one with Satan's Angels right here. So that one's decent, but I think for me, I am definitely going to be doing one of the tan ones. I'm not sure if it's going to be Wongo Wongo or the Witch. Probably the Witch, because it does have a good amount of bombing missions to go on to that as well. But I think I do have some masks or some decals. I'll have to double check and see what I have. Alright, so moving forward with our decals. Alright, so the decals do look alright. The Satan's Angels one, the artwork is very blurry. Hardly, you can't really tell what it is on that, and it does seem a little bit thick on here, so definitely not going to be doing Satan's Angels. The Witch does look fairly nice on the detail again, so we'll be definitely using the Witch for this option right here, unless I have a better decal option down in the tote that I have all the aftermarket in. We do have a nice little bombing register right here, and the decals do feel alright. There is a good amount of carrier film around these decals, the bombing missions, so definitely going to need to take care of that. But everything, or also this is all one decal, so all that is carrier film right there. That is going to be hopefully the Solva set and everything works well to kind of hide that carrier film on that. Alright, and then moving on to our other decal sheet. Again, a gloss, kind of a gloss finish, a semi-gloss finish on all these decals right here. They don't look bad at all. The Wongo Wongo decals, they do look very nice. Actually, I'm thinking with the way that this is, I might be using Wongo Wongo instead of the Witch. So we'll have to take a look and see. But again, nice decals on here. I think I have the mask from DN Models for the stars on here, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But again, some nice decals on here. Hopefully Solva set will really help those settle into the model. Alright, so starting off with our photo etch right here. Photo etch is pretty nice. It's the typical trumpeter Hobby Boss thickness, so it is pretty thick. But we do have some nice detail. These are your spark plug wires for your engines, and then also these are the photo etch panels for the bomb bay right here. That will kind of look. The detail on it does look okay. It's not like. Not really nice. It's not outstanding, but it's just okay on that. So that's where we stand with those. And then there's nothing on the reverse side of that. Alright, so up next we have some giant vinyl wheels. And again, I am not a fan of vinyl wheels. I never have been, and I never will be. But these, they do have the seam line going right down the middle. The tread detail is okay on here, and there's no sidewall detail, so that's where those tires are standing. That's the main landing gear tire. Then we have our nose landing gear tire, again with the seam line down the middle and no sidewall detail on that. Alright, so moving forward, we have, these are the inserts for our landing gear, and they are plastic. And with how big and heavy this kit is going to be, even though we're going to have a couple pieces that go around here, I don't know what they were thinking on thinking that these plastic pieces will be able to hold up the weight for any longer than a little bit. I see this sagging relatively quickly. And then also we have the part number molded onto the actual strut right there, as you can see. Instead of putting it on this little pin right here, they put it on the actual part. So again, this kit is kind of a letdown, to say the least. Alright, moving on to our first clear parts. The clear parts are very, very nice. Nice and crystal clear. No issues with any of those. No seam lines, no burring, no like waviness to it. They are absolutely crystal clear on here. So this is very, very nice on the kit. Alright, so up next we have another sprue of clear parts, and again, like the other one, absolutely crystal clear, even on the turrets right here. So no issues with any of that. We do have a little bit of flash on the outside of this sidewall for the ball turret right here, but that shouldn't be too difficult to take care of. And then the main canopy does actually look nice and super clear on there. So we do have that. We have all of our navigation lights right here, and then our side windows right here as well. And also the clear parts are nicely protected in this bubble wrap, so we shouldn't have any issues with scratching or any of that in the packaging. Alright, so moving on, we have a few other parts right here. Not much detail to them. Looks like the tops to a couple ammo cans right here. And then we'll flip it over to the other side. Looks like these are our landing gear doors. Not much detail to them. So I can't really say much about that. The pitot tube does look a little bit thick on here, as you can see, but everything else it's okay. It's okay. It's a good, this is going to be a good starting point for doing hyper detail, and I'm sure that there's going to be more parts that go all around here as well. Alright, so up next we have some more clear parts. Pretty sure that this part won't be used. This is for the B-24J, and then these side windows right here as well. I'm not sure if we're going to be using that or not, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to be using this piece right here. Alright, and then this is our last clear sprue, and we have our nose glass right here, absolutely crystal thin. We do have what looks to be like a little crack down here, and then a seam line down the middle right here on the bottom, and a light seam line right on the top of here as well. I mean, that is barely visible, and I'm not sure if you're even going to be able to sand that out, because when I rub my finger over it, there's no like click to it, so it might be inside the plastic for that. So, but again, all the other parts are absolutely crystal clear. They look absolutely gorgeous right here. We do have a little bit of flash on the side of this observer's dome right here, the Astrodome, but again, all the other clear parts absolutely look gorgeous. Alright, and then up next we have some rubber ammo belts right here. Not much detail to them. You can kind of see the bullets in here. So we'll have to see how those go. Again, I'm not a fan of rubber or vinyl sets to these kits. Alright, so moving on, we have a double sprue right here, and this is all of our ordnance, our bombs, our oxygen bottles right here, and a couple other detail sets for the cockpit. So moving right along, the bomb detail does look okay. You're not going to really be able to see much of it because it is going to be tucked up in the bomb bay. Then these oxygen bottles, the detail on those do look okay as well. The bomb fins, they do seem, they're okay for their thickness. They're not too bad on the thickness. Then we have this ammo belt right here that goes on, and then a bunch of other switch panels that go on right along in here. They look okay, but again, I think I'm going to see if Quinta Studios has the 3D printed stuff for the interior, just to kind of really liven that up. And then our gun, okay, our gun, the body has some nice detail. The barrel is somewhat okay, and the connection point for the sprue is right on the tip of the barrel right here. So you're going to need to cut that off and then drill it out right there. So everything else on here does look okay. The bomb fins, the right here, the fuse pins, those do seem also a little bit thick and a little bit oversized as well for a 1/32 scale kit. Would be okay for a 1/24 scale, but for 1/32 those definitely seem too big. Alright, so up next we have our engine nozzles, and looks like either our ailerons or our flaps. The panel line and rivet detail on here is pretty nice. It's nice and crisp, equal all the way through around this bend, so we don't have any issues with this. We do have a little bit of a teardrop rivet going around the bend right here, but that shouldn't be much of an issue, right? And then everything else on here does look okay. With the flaps or ailerons, whichever piece that is, those also have some nice panel line and rivet detail on that. Flip it over to the other side. These are the only pieces right here that are going to be any worried about with the ejector pins, and we have all the ejector pin nubs on the outside of the actual part, so it is going to take a little bit of cleanup, but again, we don't have to worry about actual ejector pin marks on the actual part that we're going to be working with. Alright, so up next we have more detail parts and guns. The guns do look okay, but again we have that sprue nub that's right on the tip of the barrel, so gonna need to take care of that. And then all the other detail parts, looks like a lot of this is for the turrets right here. Then we have a bulkhead, no real detail on that, and just everything else looks okay on the kit, or on this sprue. We do have a little bit of wiring detail on the inside of this piece. So you might be able to see that. We do have a couple ejector pin marks on the inside of this piece right here, but again, I don't know if you're going to actually be able to see that part. And then for right here, it looks like the floor for a turret, and we do have our ammo belts going into what will be our guns right here. Alright, so up next we have more guns going on. We have our turret, the bop or the ball turret right here for the back side of that, and then a bunch of other little detail parts to go into the turrets moving right along. We also have a wheel hub right here. Detail on that is kind of generic, so we'll have to see about getting some aftermarket wheels for this kit. On the reverse side, we do have some thick ejector pin marks right here. I'm not sure if that's going to affect the fit when you sandwich parts together, but hopefully it doesn't. We also do have a couple ejector pin marks and some flash on the top portion of the ball turret, or the receptacle for the ball turret right here. So I'm going to need to do some cleanup to make sure that fits flush with the turret. Alright, so up next we have some landing gear struts right here. They do seem pretty thick, but again, I just don't see that supporting the weight of this kit, even with the plastic inserts. Now, if they were metal inserts, I could definitely see it, but with plastic inserts, I just don't see that happening. Then we have a bunch of other detail parts for like the bomb bay, and I don't know what the rest of this stuff goes to. We do have our throttle quadrant right here, so we'll have to see how that all looks. And then on the reverse side, not too bad on the parts. Not sure where these go. We do have a couple ejector pin marks, but I'm pretty sure that if they're there and not on the flip side and going along with the rest of the kit, every part that you'd be able to see, the ejector pin marks are placed elsewhere. We do have some raised ejector pin marks and flash going on the inside of your landing gear struts, so you're definitely going to need that, clean that up before you put your inserts in there. But everything else does look fairly nice. Alright, up next we have our wing spar. This is big, chunky, beefy, thick. It's definitely going to support the weight. I mean, I am trying to bend it pretty hard and it's not budging, so that's a nice part of the kit. And definitely with how big these wings are, definitely going to need that support in the wing. And then we're moving on to the flight deck, or a few other detail parts. Again, some nice rivet detail in there, some nice cabling detail. I think this might be one of the pieces for the bomb bay part, probably, but we'll have to check all of that. And then we have some more bulkhead detail through there. We flip it over to the reverse side. Ejector pin marks on the underside where you're not really going to be able to see. I'm hoping you really can't see the inside of here or on this side, because we do have a good amount of ejector pin marks on that. But like I said, I don't think you're going to be able to see this side. Fingers crossed. Alright, so up next we have more detail parts with our flaps or ailerons. Not sure which ones these are. I'm pretty sure they're flaps though. But those look nice with the rivet detail. We have some more body detail right here with some nice raised detail, along with some recessed rivets on that. And then the flight deck actually does look very nice with the rivet detail and everything. Get that painted up and weathered, that's going to look really nice. And you're definitely going to be able to see inside of here because that front glass is so large. So you will definitely be able to see all of that. But all the other detail on here, we have all the ejector pin marks on the areas that you're not going to be able to see. So you don't have any issues with that. And I don't see any flash or anything around on this kit that would be a hindrance to building. Alright, so up next we have our vertical stabilizers and rudders. Again, the panel line and rivet detail, absolutely outstanding on these flat pieces right here, as you can see. And then on the rudders, it kind of looks like they're trying to give the fabric detail, or maybe these are, and I mean the rivet detail on here does look nice. You do have some raised ribs right in here, so those might not be fabric. I think these are not fabric, but again, some nice detail on those. Those are going to weather up very, very nice. The quality of plastic is also very nice as well. Alright, moving on to our tailplane sprue. Again, panel lines and rivets are very nice on here. They look nice and crisp. They look like they're a decent size. They look like a decent depth. We do have, okay, that's just the light hitting it, because it looked like those were going to be teardrop recessed rivets, but they're okay on that. So it's just the way that the light is hitting it for me. But as you can see, all that rivet detail, I'm hoping that will pick up on the camera right in here. As you can see, some very nice detail on all that. And then again on the underside, some nice detail on there as well. Alright, so up next we have some more detail parts along here. We have our front instrument panel. We're going to have decals that go inside of here. It does look a little bit plain. Again, with how big this canopy is and how much of it you're going to be able to see, definitely thinking I'm going to try to spruce this up with some 3D printed decals if they're available. But everything else on here does look fairly nice. The wheel hub detail on here actually looks very nice on there. So I'm hoping that the camera will pick that up somehow. Trying to get it. But there we go. And then all the other detail parts. The guns look okay. Again, not drilled out on the barrel tip, but that's an easy fix right there. The body detail on the guns actually is very nice, with some raised detail and also some recessed detail on there. So again, Nice detail on the body. The barrels leave a little bit to be desired on that, but they should be okay. Alright, up next we have some bomb bay detail, and these bomb racks look absolutely atrocious. There's like no detail to them at all, so you're definitely going to want to put the bombs on these racks to hide up the lack of detail on here. They look like they're from a 70s Revell kit on the detail wise for that, so that is a major letdown. But then again, just put the bombs in, put it over it, you won't be able to see those. But all the other detail on here does look very nice. You have your ammo cans right here, some nice rivet detail on that. Flip it over to the other side. Alright, so these doors, not sure if these are landing gear doors, but they do have some ejector pin marks right in here. As you can see right there, I'm going to zoom in some. There we go. As you can see, hopefully, there we go, picking them up right there. So those ejector pin marks definitely going to need to take care of. And we also have some ejector pin marks on these doors right here. Again, I'm not sure if we use these for this kit. Alright, so moving on, we have our bomb bay doors. Again, very nice on the rivet detail on these. And you're going to be able to actually see these because they do raise up along the fuselage. So you will be able to see all of this. And then on the reverse side, some cabling and wiring detail for inside the bomb bay right in here. Fairly decent. And then on the inside of the bomb bay doors, they do have ejector pin marks, but you're not going to be able to see these because they are flush up against the fuselage. So no worries with any of those ejector pin marks. Alright, so up next we have a double sprue, and this is of our engines, and the engine detail on here is absolutely atrocious. It's non-existent. I mean, this looks like it was from a monogram 1970s kit. That's how bad it is. Just a detail. I really hate when kits do this type of engine face. Just do the full engine. It doesn't matter if we can see it or not. We at least have the option to open up panels or something like that and just add in extra parts, especially in 1/32. Now I can understand it in 1/72, maybe even 1/48 scale, but in 1/32 scale you are going to be able to see this. And the lack of detail even in here is just, for the amount of money that you spend on this kit, even though it does have a lot of plastic, I would rather them put more detail on the engine than in the interior of this kit, because you're not going to be able to see much of the interior. You will be able to see this. So that is one thing that kind of irks me about this kit, is just the lack of engine detail on here. Now, with that being said, there are some aftermarket engine sets out there that will definitely be beneficial for this kit. For the superchargers, the detail on it is okay, and I don't think there is an aftermarket set out for the superchargers right here, so that's one downside to that. But they should be okay for the detail. They're going to be tucked in, so you're really only going to see this part, and I mean it is okay as long as you weather it up real nice. The props do look okay. Nice and knife edged on the edges, on the leading and trailing edges. There's some nice knife edge to that. And then the engine cowls, again, nice rivet detail on that. So that's nice. Now we flip it over to the other side. None of this you're going to be able to see, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Alright, so up next we have some more bulkheads and more detail on here. We do have some really nice framing detail on these pieces right here, with the frames and the bolts going into it. So very nice raised bolts or rivets going on right there, and that's on a few of these pieces going on right. And I just really nice detail. Now we flip it over to the other side. We do have some rather large ejector pins that we will need to cut off, and that's pretty easy. You just come in here, clip that off, and watch it ping off into oblivion, and you are all set. So you have to do that to all of these. They are littered all over this kit, but that is a trade-off for the detail that is actually on the front of this piece right here. So the front end, really nice. The back end, a couple minutes of work to get all those ejector pins off. Alright, so now we have our upper wings, and these wings are absolutely massive. They are... Alright, so the wings are approximately about 240 millimeters per wing. That is massive on a wingspan right here. Now, as you can see, the detail on it is fairly nice. It's going to be a good starting point. I think there's more rivets and panels that go onto here, so definitely going to want to look that up and see about doing some re-riveting and scribing on here just to kind of liven it up a little bit. But the starting out detail on here is actually very nice. The quality of the plastic, it does have a nice little grain to it. It's not too grainy, but it's a nice quality plastic on that. And then all the other panel lines and everything do look very nice. And then we also do have our ailerons right here as well. So those are nice. We do have a little bit of flash on the edge of that, so, but it's not much. Also for these, we do have these giant, so you have the giant wing spar that comes in here, right? And then moving on to the outside of the kit, we have this giant bracing system that goes on to help give the outer wings support as well. So very nice engineering on that part at least. Alright, so up next we have our lower wings, and much like the upper wings, outstanding detail on the panel lines and rivets. Now we might want to go in and add some more panel lines and rivets. It does seem like this is a good starting point, but I think the actual aircraft does have a lot more rivets. I'll have to check some pictures that I have and just double check and see. Hopefully it's accurate, but trust but verify, right? I'm sure some of you veterans got chills or the ick when I said that, but sometimes we have to do it. Alright, so on to our last sprue, and this is the whole fuselage body, and this is absolutely massive right here. It's about the size, a little bit shorter than my poster board, maybe a few inches shorter front and back, but again, absolutely massive. It is a heavy sprue. That's why I'm worried about that landing gear supporting all the weight of this kit. Now zoom in right here and we're going to see the detail that's going on, and you can see absolutely amazing panel line and rivet detail on here, just going all the way through, and it does seem to maintain depth and everything while it's going around these curves. So that's very nice detail on that. Now, like I said, we'll have to double check and make sure there's not extra rivet lines that go in between of here. So we'll have to check and see. But again, very nice quality plastic, very nice. The rivet detail all going all the way around on the bends, looking good. And then we have the interior side. Alright, so the interior, I am not seeing any ejector pin marks on any of this. And that is very nice. Very nice. I thought I saw one right here, but that's just a connection point. But everything else on here, absolutely gorgeous, as you can see through this one as well. So the interior side, absolutely gorgeous. The outside, gorgeous as well. And I'm hoping that it's accurate, but I'm going to have to double check and see if there needs to be more riveting, but at least it looks like it's a good starting point if it needs to be re-riveted. Alright, so that does it for the Hobby Boss 132nd B-24D Liberator. Okay, so my thoughts about this kit. The exterior detail, absolutely amazing. Just probably gonna need to go in and add a little bit more rivet detail on it, and it should look absolutely outstanding when all that's done. The interior detail looks pretty nice. Even though you're not going to be able to see a lot of it in this kit, it does look like it's going to be nice. And like through the front cockpit and through the front nose, you'll be able to see a lot of that. And then through the waist section, you should be able to see a good amount through that as well. The decal options, I really do like a couple of decal options. The Wongo and the Witch looked very nice on the decals. Now the Satan's Angel, that one looked like garbage. That was blurry. You almost couldn't even make out what it was. It just looked like a kind of a tan blob with an orange swirl on it, and that's how it looked. So that was one major downfall of the kit. The other major downfall of the kit is the landing gear. I don't know how that landing gear is going to support the weight of this kit, honestly. Definitely going to be looking into some metal landing gear for this, because that is definitely going to be needed, because this is going to be a heavy model when it is all completed. Now, the biggest letdown of this entire kit are the engines. The engines, absolutely atrocious. Horrible engines, trash. I can't say enough bad words about it without cussing, you know. So definitely gonna need to get some aftermarket engines for that, because you will be able to see the engine. Maybe you won't be able to see a lot of it, but you'll be able to see enough of it. And that engine, just, there's no detail to it. You can see the cylinder heads, and some of the cylinder heads are actually smooth and not with the cooling veins on them. So that is one like major downfall for me. Also, I wish that they had the option to have the cowl flaps open. They don't have that. It's all closed. So that's another downside to this kit, is the cowl flaps. It doesn't have the option of having them open or closed. The superchargers, they looked okay. The bomb bay looks pretty nice, except for the bomb racks. The bomb racks, like I said, looked like they were from a 70s Revell kit with the detail. But with that being said, you're really not going to be able to see them when you have the bombs on there. So it's kind of a trade-off. The clear parts, absolutely outstanding on the clear parts. Absolutely. They were crystal clear. I just had what seemed to be maybe a little crack, but actually looking at the art up front, I think that line is actually supposed to be there on the very front piece right there. So we'll have to check and see on that to see how accurate it is. Everything else looked pretty nice. This is going to be a massive kit. That wingspan, one wing was about 240 millimeters. So double that up, plus the width of the fuselage. That's going to be a chunk of a model. Alright, so that's all I have to say about this B-24. It's about the same as the B-24J that we did last week. I think this one might be a little bit better with just some of the detail part. I am a fan of the round nose instead of the turret nose for the B-24, so I might be a little bit swayed that way. But yeah, so that's all I have to say about this kit. I hope you guys enjoyed this inbox review. I hope if you had any questions, or if you're leaning one way or the other about buying this kit, I hope it helped you make your decision. If you've built this kit before, comment down below if you built it and there were any snags in the build, or if you plan to build it, also comment. But other than that, that's all I have to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications of when I post future videos. And until next time, thank you for watching. Have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.